How to do this. Oh, there we go. So the reason why we did it is because we don't jump straight to citations with zoning enforcement. We normally start with a notice of zoning violation, and there's a little bit of leeway here. You don't necessarily just contact them and then hit them with a citation instantaneously. It normally starts with a request for voluntary compliance. Once you go beyond that, you might go to a cease and desist if it's an emergent matter, but most of the time it's a notice of violation, which gives them 30 days normally before you even get to the point where you're introducing or entertaining the idea of a citation. If it's that minor, we just want compliance, they're probably going to resolve it before then. So it also is supposed to be punitive and deterrent. If you have $150 waiting for you every day, you're not going to be dragging your feet to resolve the problem. Unfortunately, in a lot of enforcement cases I've personally worked, they'll wait to the 11th hour. They'll wait to that very last day before they either resolve it and unless it's daily accruing fees, that flat fee was what I was trying to get away from.
I believe that's the same process with blight. We don't, on day one, we don't go out and say, you owe us $150 a day. So again, my point is that someone who's being cited for a very minor thing is gonna be paying 50% more than what someone for a very blighted, property has. And I don't think that's a good thing to do.
What do other towns do?
Most towns I work for have done $150 a day per citation, per violation. After they've received a notice of violation. Some of them do not have blight ordinances at all, and it kind of goes hand in hand. Zoning enforcement is a little bit discretionary. I don't think we would jump straight to citations for someone with a sign violation, for example. Most of the small things that normally get resolved very quickly. Some of the bigger things might be illegal fill on a property, for example, where they pay a flat fee, never did anything about it, and it continued going on. Something like that. The reason why I was interested in changing this, it gives us the teeth. It gives us that per day per violation instead of a flat fee. And also when we change the zoning regulations, I'm a little concerned to leave it based off of each violation in each section separately, because I've noticed certain sections went missing when they updated the zoning regulations. It incurs a lot of cost to the town to be able to do 2 public hearings. One, to update the zoning regulations, in addition to come back to before the Board of Selectmen to change the ordinance, to assign a fee to it.
Aren't we accomplishing what you're saying on a larger scale violation? They're not gonna get a $50 fine, they're gonna get a $150 fine. Because I haven't read through all of them, but there are some in here that are 100, that are 150. I would assume that the ones that are 150 are more aggressive violation.
I don't think so. I read
No?
through that and I was looking for that.
Well, what's the
Kind of
difference
all over the map.
what is the difference between a $50 violation and a $150?
I don't think there is one. That's why I wrote it the way I did. That's the original and existing, and I can't speak to the mindset they had for that.
What's the right,
And on page 11, 8 of 11, there are 10 or 12, I would assume, zoning violations. And there's one for 150, one for 100, one for 50, one for 150. What am I reading there?
These are different sections now, as it is in the zoning regulations. Currently, it doesn't even match up to our zoning regulations. These sections don't exist.
Right, that's the other problem we have with this whole thing, which is why when you read the letter, these
Yeah, I read
sections that
that.
are listed the way it's listed, we have our ordinance set today, don't correlate with the current code.
Would you be more favorable to changing the fee to $100 so it matches the blight ordinance per violation per day? My point is more consistency.
I think that would be better than having someone have to pay like the max. You know, I could see us having a 50 to 150 max, but, you know.
Yeah, on the opposite end of that spectrum though, consider the extreme violations. For example, we have an illegal dumping situation right now where essentially they just got a slap on the wrist and no repercussions.
And that's why that's why I agree with you there. That should be a $150 fine. So there's no way that we could work this out to where you had a 100 and 150 rather than a 50, 100 and 150, to where you're being more aggressive on the lower end, but you're not saying, hey, your violation bad as badly blighted. I don't wanna create a lot of extra work, but I would think that would be more fair.
Also, I just, for my own edification,
Mhm.
just so I'm tracking, this was all reviewed by Attorney Schellenberg.
This was a turn, and she actually agreed with the $100.50 fine to why, somebody's already doing something wrong. Why are we going to give them more leeway? They're already breaking the rules. They've already been
Well,
notified.
we're charging them 100% more than what they are being charged now.
If they have a parking violation, for
Yeah.
example, but nobody enforces that anyways. So
Well, that's not my fault. We're not enforcing.
Parking
what we're supposed to
violation.
enforce.
I don't think, I can't speak to parking citations.
Yeah.
Parking, it's police,
I
but
would be agreeable
sorry,
to
it says
going
off-street parking.
to 100 and 150, but I just can't see charging somebody for a minor violation $150 a day.
But they're, again, they're going to be noticed, they're going to have the grace period to redeem themselves, and then if they're not in compliance after that period expires. It was
Right.
to make it, like she said, more,
consistent for each across the board, and also to make sure that we're not coming back every time we updated the zoning regulations. Because right now, where it's written, every time I update, I'm changing. So let's say we create a zoning regulation for something that doesn't exist right now. There's no citation associated with it. None.
Yeah. I'm not really concerned with that in the sense of what we're talking about, because if we're going to make a new ordinance and we need a citation, then we need to do it. Obviously, we relied on wherever this was put together, but.
it twice in 1997
Yeah.
and again in 2006, right? In both of them.
Believe so. I think it was updated to add an Article 2 at one point in time.
I'm just,
But-
I don't know.
So what's, I mean,
Blight also has a similar situation though, right? Where there's gonna be some blight violations that are major, but some that are minor.
I don't believe so. I believe blight is 150 per citation.
150?
Yeah. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is. I think it is 150 per violation, per day, for whatever the violation is.
Regardless of what the
Right.
severity
I
is.
think, I might be
I
wrong.
mean, I can text Brandon.
I mean, I'd say
what
many
actually
communities
goes
are
on. I
going
think it's
in that
100.
direction where they simply take a look at what the state allows and hit that cap to avoid the, number one, to avoid the issue of new violations coming into
Yeah.
being and having to assign new penalties, but also just to make sure everything's standard. If it's blight or if it's a zoning violation, you're going to get that penalty. But I would agree with everything that's been said. Punitive isn't the goal. If it has to come down to it,
Right.
it is. But everything I've ever heard when I've worked with blight departments and zoning departments,
Compliance is the goal.
the key. And generally, you have every arrow in your quiver to try to get compliance before you have to record a lien on somebody's property.
And I understand that. And we have that problem with the blight. It's almost like people don't even pay attention to it. It's pretty frustrating. The other concern I had was that if there are minor, let's say minor violations, and somebody's going from 100 to 100, from 50 to 150, they have the opportunity to appeal that, correct?
They do. You will have a citation hearing
So,
process.
How many more appeals are we gonna have for minor violations where they're saying, I'm not paying 150 for this because I could have a tree go through my house and let it sit there for 5 years and it's only gonna be $150. So how much more taxing is it gonna be on whoever has to hear these hearings?
So the citation hearing process is actually with a citation hearing officer who's appointed by actually the Board of Selectmen. So yes, it would be more, but it's not a full court proceeding. It's an in-house proceeding. You're not accruing that type of legal fees associated with it.
So it's
I mean, I'm not that
it's
against.
6:45, we're gonna have more
Yeah,
time
yeah.
for discussion and vote
Okay.
on this during
Okay.
our regular meeting.
Okay.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to comment on the zoning ordinance changes?
And I'm not dead set against this. I'm just viewing my opinion, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, if there's no one else here from the public who would like to discuss the zoning violations and citations ordinance amendment, I would like to close the public hearing and adjourn. Okay. Moving right along, it is 6:45 PM on September 5th, 2023, and I'd like to call to order the public hearing for the fire ordinance. This public hearing proposal was noticed to the legal voters and residents of the town of Brookfield that the Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing at Brookfield Town Hall, 100 Pocono Road, Brookfield, Connecticut, room 133, on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, at 6:45 for the purpose of receiving public comment and opinion concerning a proposed fire watch ordinance. Copies of the proposed ordinance is on file and available for public inspection in the office of the town clerk and on our town website, www.brookfieldct.gov. Have you had a chance to review
Yes.
this? Okay. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on this? No?
I
This
did
is-
have some questions.
Sure.
Until about 25 after, but I'm all answered now. I'm all set now.
This is an ordinance that previously didn't exist, so it'll be brand new for us.
Look at these two guys. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just saw one flying over the lake on my way in.
I like that.
Yeah, they're beautiful. These are the ones that are there, the smaller ones, but I think, do you have a picture of the other ones?
Are there bigger ones that they're
I
gonna
think
put in?
maybe bigger, yeah.
I think those are perfect. I like those.
So we're in a public hearing for a fire watch ordinance. If there are any members of the public who would like to speak on the fire watch ordinance.
We just go up.
Yes, sir.
Hi, good evening. My name is Andy Kame. I'd like to speak in favor of the fire watch ordinance. I think it's important that Brookfield can get reimbursed for where it can for these types of events. I think it's important with a lot of the development that's going on that alarm systems may not be in everywhere, and it would be a good idea if the homeowner, if the property owner was willing to pay for it, that the fire department, keep a watchful eye on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I failed to mention earlier that this public hearing has myself, First Selectwoman Tara Carr, Selectman Harry Shaker, and just entered Selectman Steve Dunn, as well as Town Council Attorney John Marini. Hello, Steve.
How are you today?
Never better. How about you?
I'm peachy. Late, but peachy. I got caught in traffic. Who thinks there's traffic on 84 in the middle of the day?
Brutal.
It's better at rush hour.
84's gotten bad. Do you have any questions about the fire ordinance?
No.
Okay, it's about 9 minutes left of the public hearing for the fire watch ordinance for the town of Brookfield. move these two up on the agenda to get
Yeah,
these
I
guys
just
out
had
of here.
one question. The fire marshal alone determines whether an event requires?
No, is that how it's read?
Yeah. And any assembly event exhibit at which the fire marshal or his or her designee deems a potential hazardous condition to exist or leads to the fire reduction of any safety feature, they can require the town to have one person per 300 people.
Where are you looking here?
Bottom,
Mike?
right here?
Do you- So you,
I'm
the
sorry.
fire marshal's here if you wanna ask that
Yeah,
question.
here's the question. I'm sorry, I forgot about this. Any public assembly, is that on?
Yes.
It's on. Any public assembly, events, exhibit, or other activity at which the fire marshal, his or her designee, deems a potential hazardous condition to exist, or which leads to a reduction of any life safety feature, you can designate somebody to be there for every 300 people. But it's in your sole discretion. That's a pretty broad power.
So it's based on the occupant
Do you wanna come to the mic,
Yeah.
Mike? See what I did there?
Make sure the red light's off. So it's based on several things, the occupant load, the number of exits required. If there's less exits than should be, then maybe we need to have somebody there. So there's several, it depends on the scenario.
But it's in your sole
So,
discretion.
yes.
And also upon review of the law, right? and
Oh, absolutely. It's,
ingress,
so this,
egress, and life safety.
this mirrors the fire code. So, and then from here, we can drill down into the fire prevention code, the state fire code. But it's all basically in black and white when we're enforcing this.
So would you then be reviewing every single public assembly that's
No.
planned in the town? of
There's
Brookfield?
no way I could be everywhere, know everything going on. Absolutely not. So these are based off of things we know that are gonna happen, or a lot of times complaints. You know, if I get a complaint, something's overcrowded, we'll go out and check on it.
At the time?
So, oh, absolutely. Yeah, 'cause after the event, it does us no good.
That's what I was gonna say.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I thought that this was primarily for issues where, like we had at the 777.
Yeah,
where
no.
Fire,
That's the most common.
right,
Yes.
there was no, the sprinklers weren't in effect.
Yep.
The walls were broken down.
Yes.
And so it was deemed an immediate hazard to the town and to the occupants
No.
that were in there.
No, you had a daycare, so that example, you had a daycare operating, so yes.
Yeah.
So it's a required feature that's missing.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
I think the primary, those are good questions, but the primary reason we need an ordinance, most towns do have them, but we had this fee schedule that the first selectman
Yeah,
would
yeah,
sign,
I know,
and there's
right.
no teeth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this codifies, basically
Yeah,
our
I
fee
understand the
schedule.
purpose. I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I'm
No,
gonna try
that's
to
it
move
for
you
me.
guys to the top of the agenda so we can get you out of here. Thank you for being
Yeah.
here, Jesse and Mike. There's 5 more minutes for the public hearing. If there's any members of the public who would like to speak to the fire watch ordinance. We could even shorten these to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. We'll put them,
Let's see, where are they?
on the agenda.
Fire plan, do the fire, what would you want to
We'll
do
put it right
both
before
or just?
Marshall. Move to item. Oh,
Why don't we just move it right up into public comment?
God bless you.
salute. Because then we've got some presentations. I mean, any way you do it. you
I
want
mean, the
people
fire watch
waiting.
isn't, we're not gonna, we all agree on it, so
Yeah.
it's only, should only be 2 minutes. Whatever you want to do. So, if you want to do it a little later. After the announcements and I mean, so, what do you want?
Yeah, I mean, because I would move them both up since we just had this public hearing, but we can take a vote on it if we want to tuck them in after public comment.
I don't think it's gonna be more than 5 or 6 minutes for both of them.
Yeah.
Let's move them. I'll move them.
Just 3 minutes left to the public hearing for the Fire Watch ordinance, if any members of the public have anything to share. So it's 7A and 7B.
7B.
Delayed. Nothing's perfect. Okay, there's 1 minute left on the public hearing for the Fire Watch ordinance. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on the Fire Watch ordinance? 1 minute left on the public hearing for the Fire Watch ordinance, if you'd have anything to share.
Oh.
Otherwise,
Oh my goodness.
okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to close the public hearing for the Fire Watch ordinance.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion on the adjournment.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Like I said, it's 7 o'clock on September 5th, Tuesday, 2023. I'd like to call to order our Board of Selectmen meeting for this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, this evening we have myself, First Selectwoman Tara Carr, Selectman Harry Shaker, Selectman Steve Dunn, our Town Controller Marcia Marion, and Attorney John Marini with us. We will start with public comment. Is there anybody signed up for public comment?
Yes, Andy.
Hi, my name's Andy Kame, 5 Fernbrook Drive. I'm also a member of the Zoning Commission, the Secretary of the Zoning Commission. Fortunately, I was unable to arrive early to speak in favor of the zoning ordinance of $150 a day fine. I think there may be some concern about the amount. I just want to let you know that on my short-term time on Zoning Commission, fines are rarely used. The other thing is, in our looking at this, it should have been 150 all along, because that's what the state of Connecticut allows. We traced it back to somewhere around 2000, and there was a question as to whether there was apparently some effort to put it in as an ordinance back then, but it never made it in. And for whatever reason, for about 22 years, we've dropped the ball on this issue. The key thing here is that before a property becomes blight, it's usually a zoning problem with, excessive, whatever the issues happen to be. So this would go a long way to preventing that. I also, if you look at the zoning process of corrective action, this is a rarely used item. The vast majority of the people are given a notice of violation, and there's discussions. It usually starts as a very informal process. And the vast majority of people fix the problem themselves or make arrangements or request additional time. It's only a very small minority of folks, somewhere in the neighborhood of, I would say, less than 1%, that simply refuse to correct the property. And it's also if you have to live next to one of these properties as a neighbor, you're not very happy about it. In some instances, people have requested reductions in their property value because of these situations. So it would behoove the town to be able to have a enforcement mechanism that actually has teeth and that will actually solve the problem. Again, a rarely used situation, but without the force and effect of a fine, it really does us very little. And in addition, most towns use this, and most towns use this amount because that's the amount that the state of Connecticut allows. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
George Walker?
Hi, George Walker, 24 Lillinona Drive in Brookfield. As most people in this community know, I have been involved in the local Brookfield community as a volunteer for many years on numerous boards and commissions, serving as a selectman about 10 years ago. I'm here tonight to clear up some misinformation that is being spread about me and two recent incidents on town of Brookfield property with a person and one of his family members personally threatening me at the Republican caucus on July 20th. And the recount that was held in this room the day after the caucus. This person's family member accosted me the night of the caucus at Wisconsin School as I was voting, grabbed my arm, pointing a finger and fingers at my face and hollering and yelling at me, "You are responsible for the names on this ballot. We are coming after you, Walker." I asked this person to please step back and leave me alone. The family member continued with raging comments to me, "We will get you, Walker." That person then walked away, and I thought the incident was over. The caucus ended that evening with a recount being required for the next day. The next morning, I was called and was asked to participate as a volunteer, helping to verify the caucus recount. I arrived at Town Hall, this room 133, to help oversee the recount. During the discussion and prior to the recount, there were items being reviewed by the various 7 to 8 parties in the room. During the discussion and items being reviewed, I corrected one of the participants on an item, at which time he pointed a finger at me, telling me to shut up. Well, I immediately told him in a very loud and authoritative voice, and as you can see, I have a very loud and authoritative voice, that I would not be intimidated by him, and announced to the room, the people in this room, that his family member threatened me the night before at the caucus. This person then immediately went into a rage, coming toward me, starting to take off his jacket and shouted, "We're going to settle this out in the parking lot. I'm going to knock your teeth out." Let me repeat that. He said, "We are going to settle this in the parking lot." In this room, he says, "I'm going to settle this in the parking lot. I'm going to knock your teeth out." Well, one of the people standing near him restrained him, who was over here, okay, made him sit down, telling him calm down, and the incident was over. And then the recount process started shortly thereafter. I addressed the incidents with the Brookfield police and gave them a written statement and have asked for follow-up, only to be told
George, your 3 minutes is up.
The case is closed.
Your 3 minutes
Since
is up.
some of the witnesses did not collaborate the incident, and I did not seem to be, get the info, from the police.
George,
I'm
your 3
asking,
minutes is up.
I'm
Thank you.
asking this board to
George,
try to get
Your 3 minutes
information.
is up. Thank you, thank you. Your 3 minutes is up.
You just want to shut me up, that's what you want to do.
George, we do this with every person
Okay.
that comes up.
Is there anyone else signed up for public comment? Thank you.
Yes, Sally Canada?
Hi,
Hi, Jessica.
Jesseline Pineda, 12 Crestview Drive. The school year has begun, and so I just wanted to put out to the public, our town, and our officials to ask the question of what is going to happen with Center School. I'm pretty sure all of us here don't want to pay taxes for an abandoned building in our town, and so I just wanted to plant the seed to start the conversation again, to just see what we're doing with the school. We have a lot of needs between Parks and Rec and the library that can use that building. So I just wanted to say hi. I just want to keep the conversation alive and see what we're going to do next. I'm happy to help and volunteer my time. If you need me, just let me know.
We have a board member or something.
I'm already a board member.
All right, you can-
I'm on 2 boards. But I am invested in our town and doing what's best with that location. I love Center School, and I don't want an empty building in our town.
So just as a reminder, I'm not sure if you're aware, it is with the MBC.
The NBC, yes. I know they've had a hard time getting into the building because of the school schedules. We had the same issue last year, trying to get another tour together with all the parties involved. I don't know, it's probably better now that school started, but I don't know if you can help us with that.
This is the first I've been in close contact with the chair, Paul Checo, and he said that there were some members of the subcommittee going in, so I wasn't aware of what you're saying, but I would
Yeah.
encourage you, or anyone else for that matter, to go to the NBC meetings if you do have concerns about the school.
Okay, all right, thank you. That was it?
The old school.
The old school.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment?
Tony Carr.
Tony Carr, 54 Indian Trail. Just want to say that I had the opportunity to check out the new CLES, and I think our building inspectors and fire marshal did a fantastic job in holding all the contractors to the proper standards and making sure that that school was ready to open on time. You know, it's a lot of pressure on them to cut corners, and I can tell you by what I saw, they didn't cut any corners at all. Our fire marshal and our building inspectors did a fantastic job. So I just wanted to congratulate the town on that quality of work and quality of service that's being provided to the community from those individuals. And also want to mention, just I find it troubling what Mr. Walker said, and if it's possible to, if this is a town employee that did this to Mr. Walker, that person should probably be censured in some way, shape, or form. It seems very inappropriate that in an official setting like a recount that something like that would happen. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it for public comment? Okay.
You might want to clarify, it was not a public, it was not an employee of the town that was involved. You might want to clarify that.
I wasn't there, I can't speak to that. I mean, if you have any further information, you can do that, Steve.
No, I'll let it go.
You were going to make a
Yes,
motion.
yes, I would like to make a motion to move 7A and 7B up in the agenda. They are going to be short, short talks.
So they're based on the public hearing that we just
Right,
had
they're
before
both
this Board of
based on the
Selectmen.
public hearing that we just had. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in
Any
favor?
discussion? None?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so 7A is the zoning. Steve, I think you missed that public hearing. were you able to review the?
Yes, I was. I understand it, and I agree with it. I think it's fine.
Harry, did you have anything
No, I'm
else you
fine.
wanted to
No.
talk about?
No.
Okay, so we'll move to the motion, and I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve the zoning regulation ordinances as discussed at the public hearing and as written and proposed to us this evening in this packet on September 5th, 2023.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Not for me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Easy enough? All right. Moving right along to the fire watch ordinance, which was originally item 7B on the agenda. Similarly, we held a public hearing before this meeting at 6:45. Have you both been able to review the fire watch ordinance?
Yep.
So I'll move that the selectmen approve the fire watch ordinance as discussed at the public hearing tonight, September 5th, 2023, and present it to us as such.
I will second that motion.
Any discussion on the fire watch ordinance?
Not for me.
Harry? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Is that an aye, Harry?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate you all being here tonight. Thank you. Okay, item 4 on the agenda, presentations. This evening we have Mr. George Logan, who's the Director of Community Relations for Aquarion Water Company. He'll be our first presenter this evening. Were you able to get the PowerPoint, Cynthia? Super, thank you. Hello, Mr. Logan. How are you?
How are you doing today?
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is George Logan, Director of Community Relations with Aquarion Water Company.
Just so our viewers at home can hear you, sir.
What am I doing?
Just speak up a little bit.
Speak up louder. Okay,
Thank you.
yes, yes.
All right.
I can do that. I can do that. Again, my name is George Logan, Director of Community Relations with Aquarion Water Company. I'm here to present an initiative of ours. We're going throughout our service area towns and talking about the value of water. We feel that it's a good idea to keep our customers informed and public officials informed in terms of what we're doing and what Aquarion Water Company brings to the table. I submitted a presentation. I'm assuming folks on line can see that. I handed out a hard copy to each of the members of the Board of Selectmen. I'm going to flip to the second page, which just talks about the agenda. This will be a very brief presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about Aquarion Water Company, our water conservation program, the Brookfield distribution system a tad bit, and I'll talk about a capital improvement that we have going on right now. Turn to page 3, the next page. So Aquarion Water Company is the largest investor-owned water utility in New England. It's among the 7th largest in the United States as far as privately owned. It's based out of Bridgeport, Connecticut. We've been around since 1857. You may notice the fellow in the middle there, P.T. Barnum, who's the second president of Aquarion Water Company. Among his many other accomplishments in life, he's also responsible for helping develop our water system here in Fairfield County in Connecticut. Aquarion has experienced steady growth since the beginning, throughout the 20th century. We've expanded to Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Folks should know that. Aquarion Water Company has integrated over 84 water systems into its operations since 2011. And also Aquarion was acquired by Eversource Energy back in 2017. So Aquarion is a fully owned subsidiary of Eversource Energy. On the next page, it's going to just concentrate on Connecticut, but you can see that we're in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. In Connecticut alone, we have 217,000 connections, serving a population of over 600,000 people. Our rate base in terms of the assets that we have, water tanks, pump stations, pipes in the ground, is over $1 billion. Our annual revenues are over $200 million. And we serve customers in 59 cities and towns. That doesn't mean we serve every customer in all of those 59 cities and towns, but at least we serve at least some. The next page, Customer satisfaction, very important to Aquarion Water Company. Back in 2004, 2005, we measured different metrics. One of them being complaints to our regulators, to PURA. And the number that we were seeing we thought was unacceptable, 65. So we worked with our regulators, and we came up with a system to try to address initial complaints that come in and try to satisfy those complaints. And as you can see, starting back in 2005, we're at 65 per year, and we brought it all the way down to single digits because of our focus on our customers and satisfaction. Our latest survey for customers, 95% of Aquarion customers are satisfied or extremely satisfied with Aquarion service. This is strong J.D. Powers results. Historically, among the lowest number of complaints for regulated utilities. So Aquarion works hard to provide good quality service. On the next page, environmental champion. Aquarion Water Company also considers itself a steward of the environment. The environment is very important to us. Our 2022 water quality compliance, our goal was to have 0 violations when it comes to water quality. We do literally hundreds of thousands of water quality tests, and we had 0 violations. 100% environmental compliance in 2022. 100%. That includes all the pump stations, the generators, the oil that we're dealing with, all the vehicles on the road. 100% environmental compliance. And we also have a goal of being carbon neutral by 2030. So we want to make sure the public is aware of that as well. So wherever we're utilizing, whether it's fossil fuels, we're also going to counter that to make sure that by 2030 we're carbon neutral. That includes our fleet of vehicles as well. We have a comprehensive conservation program used to manage supplies when needed. The next page talks about our workforce. We couldn't do that without having a motivated and qualified workforce. We have been considered a top employer. We've been selected as one of the top places to work in Connecticut 6 times. Community involvement. Over 1/3 of our employees volunteer in over 140 organizations. We encourage volunteerism from our employees. Next page. What does Aquarion bring to the table? We're a New England-based company, roots and headquarters right here in Connecticut. Been around for 165 years. Customers benefit from the great service that we provide. Tooting our horn here. Industry-leading customer service, proven ability to manage rates and work with our regulators. And we have a deep technical bench to solve engineering, operational, and regulatory hurdles. I myself have been at Aquarion for 31 years. I started back in 1992 as a junior engineer and worked my way up to various positions in the organization. We have 100% environmental compliance record, as mentioned before, in 2022, and 0 health-based water quality violations in 2022. Our experienced buyer and integrator, flexible and creative. Brookfield system as well is one of those companies that we integrated into the Aquarion fold. And we continue to do everything we can to improve service throughout the Brookfield system. On the next page, I'm going to talk a little bit more about conservation. You can't fight a fire if there's no water in the tank. So we've worked hard to focus on water conservation. It's a natural resource, precious resource, and it is, to some degree, a limited one as well. There's many competing aspects to it in terms of the environment, in terms of natural habitat, in terms of human consumption. And what we've done things like work with our regulators to decouple our rates. So in the past, the more water that Aquarion Water Company sold, the more revenues they would make. Well, we've decoupled that now. So our regulators decide in terms of how much we're allowed to make in terms of profit in a year. So whether we sell a lot of water or less water, those margins stay the same. So we are encouraged to promote water conservation. We're encouraged to have our customers utilize less water. Also, there's new stream flow regulations and other regulations that are being impacted that is, again, requiring that water companies like Aquarion do more in terms of helping to sustain the natural habitat, which we're completely in favor of as well. All of this involves lots of capital investment. Water is water utilities is one of the most capital intensive of all the utilities, more than electric, more than gas. When you think of moving water, water is heavy. We use gravity wherever we can, but we also have to pump water. We have the pipes. They have to be, we have to make sure they don't leak. We have lots of energy requirements. Climate change. We're seeing more and more frequent short-term droughts than we have in the past. We're seeing heavy precipitation events. Those are also challenges we have to deal with. For those who may remember, back in 2016, we had a drought in the area. Affected some areas more than others, but it was a wake-up call for us to make sure that we did more to conserve water. The next page talks about, I'm sorry, you're on the right. That's fine. Demand goes up steadily through April through October. Through November and March, we have less consumption. Aquarion's customer base, approximately 90%, is residential. The majority of our customers are efficient with their use of water. We use less than the national average per person. That's a good thing. A minority of our customers, though, are using excessive amounts of water in the summer months, mainly for irrigation. So that's where a lot of our focus has been, on irrigation. And the next slide shows we've come up with a campaign to try to help change habits and folks be more responsible and conserve water more. For example, we are encouraging folks to water their lawn twice per week as opposed to every day, as opposed to watering their lawn when it's raining out. If you go to the next page, highlights all of the different towns and municipalities in Connecticut that we serve. You'll see in the green, those are areas where twice per week watering is a requirement. And you'll see right next to Brookfield there, you've got Newtown is in that fold, most of Fairfield County. But we're looking to expand that. We want to encourage more and more water conservation. We start off usually as a volunteer type of request, and then it moves over to something more mandatory. Now, when we say mandatory, we're encouraging folks to water their lawn twice per week. But even in those towns, we don't have the water company police going around and finding violators. Actually, what happens is your neighbors who are doing the right thing, they usually call in if their neighbors are watering more than usual. The next page shows the Brookfield distribution system. Of note here, you can see that because of the layout of Brookfield, you have many tanks. You can go to the next slide. Tanks and pump stations to make sure we get the water around efficiently. Aquarion is doing a lot to try to improve the efficiency of moving the water around, to make sure we do a lot to make sure that we're keeping up with emerging contaminants like PFAS, emerging regulations. And on the next page, I talk about one of the latest major infrastructure projects on Nabby Road. We're installing 4,450 feet of water main, and that is going to help dramatically in terms of the southern and western portion of the Brookfield system, Federal Road, that whole area, in terms of reliability. And the last page I'm going to leave you with, we never know the worth of water till the well runs dry. And so, again, we're doing everything we can now to make sure that we utilize the natural resource that we have. I want to thank you for your time. I don't know if you have any questions for me. That's fine. I'm here. But if not, thank you. Yes?
You said you're going to be carbon neutral by 2030?
That is the goal, yes.
Is that a straight carbon neutral, or are you buying carbon credits to offset fuel use?
Yes, it'll be a combination. But we are not going to rely mostly on carbon credits, though. Our plan is, for example, electrifying our fleet.
Yeah.
Our plan is to do what we can to do solar as much as we can, but it will be a combination. Yes.
Okay. Second question. When you talk about irrigating twice a week, you're
Yes.
looking for towns to implement an ordinance to
Well,
support that?
That would be helpful. Some towns have done that for us. That is
Can you mandate that as?
No, not at all. No, that's up to the town. No, there are towns like I believe Greenwich and others have done that. It is definitely helpful in terms of
My
enforcement.
third question is, what kind of reserves do you have? Let's say we had a drought that went
Yes.
for an extended period of time,
Yes.
like they're seeing out in Lake Mead.
Right.
How long could you provide water at the current consumption rate if there was no rain?
Right. So current varies, right? Because the current consumption rate in the summer is different than it is in the fall. Right now, we started off the year with a bit of a drought scare, but now we're sort of out of that sort of scenario. In Brookfield, for example, we don't have any really natural reservoirs of storage, right? So we're relying on wells. But that is why it's so important for us to interconnect systems, which we have been doing, to allow us to bring water from other parts of the system as well. And that is what would save us. And droughts, even though we're a small state, for example, in 2016, we were a drought in this sort of Fairfield County area of the state. but the Hartford area or Eastern Connecticut, they weren't in a drought. So it varies. It varies a bit as far as that goes. So we are working on interconnecting systems so that we can share the resources that we have. That's where the water conservation plays a big part. Because we don't want to be wasteful in the water that we have. But interconnecting the systems and sharing those water sources of supply, we think is the best way to improve reliability.
Thank you. And one last question. Have you considered as an organization, if you have users who are watering their lawns 7 days a week,
Yes.
5 hours every day?
Yes.
Do you have any mechanism to slow that down, either in rates or other ways?
Right. So Aquarion has looked to our regulators to come up with a tiered system for water rates. So if you're a regular family average user, you would pay a lower rate than someone who's using an excessive amount of water. We're in the process of working that out with our regulators, but we are looking to charge folks more who are using more water than their share, particularly for residential
Makes
use.
sense to me.
Yeah, that's what
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions,
Yes.
and thank you for this presentation. It was very informative. My first question would be beyond the Nabby Road project here in Brookfield.
Yes.
What else is Aquarion looking at for Brookfield?
Yeah, so we've got, in terms of the overall system, we're constantly looking at upgrading the equipment that we have at various pump stations in the system. We put our main replacement projects on a schedule, and we also work with the municipalities in terms of where there's a match between paving schedules and areas that we identified for main replacement. So that varies. So we're going to be looking for the next round in terms of the paving, because as you know, those paving schedules change, right? Even from the beginning of your budget season to when you're actually implementing. And we're going to be looking at working together to identify more water main replacement projects. But in terms of Nabby Road's a big one, because that's really going to allow us to tie in a couple systems that's going to increase reliability for the lower portion of Brookfield, including portions of Federal Road as well. So we're looking forward to that as well. And I could provide more, considering my time frame here, could provide more specifics in terms of what we have laid out in terms of potential projects. But again, it depends on a number of factors, including, very importantly, your paving schedule. Because what we like to do now at Aquarion is that if we can work with the town and work with your paving schedules, we will actually install the water main, and then we will contribute to your paving program on that particular street. So because of the volume in your contracts with paving contractors, you usually get a better price than Aquarion can. And so we usually are happy to contribute our portion for that main replacement. So it's a win-win for the municipality and for our customers as well.
Does that approach 100%?
Well, there are times where it has. It's rare, but yeah.
That grant.
You can't ask.
Right. Well, some towns require curb-to-curb pavement, even if you just trench on the side of the road. So it really depends. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I asked that question because, as you know, and the board well knows, because we have certain areas across town that have been challenged for many, many years, and in some cases decades, and I think a lot of that has to do with geography of the town, right?
Absolutely.
So there's opportunity, I would say, but sometimes maybe a bridge too far. But I think if we could work together, we'd be able to provide better services for residents somehow. The other question is based off of this analysis, which is great. What is Aquarion doing, or what can the town of Brookfield do to better educate our residents on water consumption and, what is the title of this? The value of water.
Well, I mean, one thing is great, just giving us the opportunity to present here today. I know that this is online as well. I don't know if you record this, but hopefully residents could take a look at this. This is part of our effort as well, to talk about this stuff and get folks thinking. And folks can always reach out to me as well. I give everybody my telephone number at work, 203-395-4610. Feel free to give me a call in the office anytime. And Aquarion has worked well with your administration, for Selectman Carr, and we want to continue with that. You've identified neighborhoods where there have been issues, and you've done, I think your administration has done a great job of pulling folks together, the utilities, along with the residents, to try to find solutions. Many times they're not easy, and many times they're involve more than just Brookfield. We have some neighborhoods where, you know, you're on the same road and part of the road's in Brookfield and part of it's in New Milford. And, you know, we've worked together to try to find solutions. We'll continue to do that as well. So thank you for your help and cooperation in those efforts.
Super. If there's any initiatives for educating the residents, I'd be happy to, and I'm sure the board would as well, to get that.
And we're always available to go into schools, high schools, middle schools. We do presentations for those folks as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Okay, the Arts Commission. Who will be presenting? Hello, good evening.
Hey. Hi. Thank you for having us. I'm Loretta Ball, 59 Carmen Hill Road. I'm a member of the Arts Commission as well as their treasurer.
Gary Blumberg, 1 Carmen Hill Road. I'm the chair of the Arts Commission.
It's a requirement that you're on. Everyone has to live on Carmen Hill Road.
Okay.
So I believe you all received a packet that's being displayed. So we wanted to introduce you to the Herons. We've been looking.
Is that a new family coming in town?
There are. Well, there's no children
We
yet.
hope so.
The children may have come first. Earlier this spring, we selected a small set of herons to go onto the Pocket Park, and we've had a lot of positive feedback from them. People received comments, people not even aware that I had anything to do with the placement of them there, that they enjoyed them. I've seen people sitting at the park and the lovely landscaping and the benches and things that are there. So as a result of that, we kind of, as we were looking at other sculptures, we came across these very graceful 8-foot herons. They're made of bronze, so they're durable for outdoor display. And earlier, 2 weeks ago, at the end of August, our commission met and we looked at the last 2 sculptures that we were reviewing, and we had a vote, and the herons came out the winner. There were some members who didn't initially vote, but they said they were definitely, when they saw the group's initiative of liking the herons, they would support it also.
If I may interject one thing.
Sure.
We also wanted to stay fiscally responsible as we were given a budget, so we wanted to stay within the budget. There were plenty of things we looked at that were much more than was budgeted, but we found something that we thought could work great for the town and stay in budget.
Well, thank you for being fiscally responsible.
So the cost of the herons is $14,000. And when I made up this potential cost, they were placeholders. After we give you some more information, I think Greg has some additional information on, I may have undershot the lighting or the installation and things. I wasn't aware that there's a different price book when you're dealing with state property. We know we have to go for state permits and get this reviewed by them, hiring an engineer and getting all that in place. But so what we're asking tonight is that the funds that are reserved for a sculpture could be used towards these herons. Herons are very settled here in Connecticut.
Indigenous?
They're indigenous. The heron, the crane, the egret, can be found around both Candlewood Lake and Lake Lillooet.
You're not going to believe this, but on my way here, I saw a heron flying right to the dock by the Candlewood Inn.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's an omen. And we just really feel as if this will give continued pleasure to the use of the park by the community.
I love them.
We'd also like them to be lit in the evenings. We think that would be great. The only thing is, we've been informed that we would need a variance as uplighting is not allowed in the downtown center. And so we'll be informed. So
some of these details we're going to hand over to more knowledgeable people than ourselves.
Yeah. But again, we're not looking to light up the skies. We're just looking to light up.
Is this the actual size of? These are the
They've
temporary children, you said, right?
No, this is a picture of where the children are, but the 8-foot herons have been placed there as a proportion.
Photoshop.
Photoshopped.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So you could imagine them, and I think they would look wonderful with the grasses that the Conservation Commission is, and plants that they have chosen to put there, just really complement sculpture of this type.
Right, the pedestal is approximately 1.5 feet, so with the 8-foot statue, it would, by making the base level with the ground there so that it could be covered with mulch, they would stand at 9.5 feet above the brick.
Okay.
I think they're beautiful. I love it.
I think
Also, right, one of the things that personally, on a personal note, that I love about the horses is that it's a family of horses. And when I think of Brookfield, that's what I think of. So this is two smaller family, but a family nonetheless.
Is the 5,000, is that like a contingency, or is that for,
I used that for the engineering design, which we did have a very loose verbal quote for approximately $5,000. But then the lighting, I probably was underestimating that, so.
We're pretty comfortable we could stay under that total number, though, at or below that number.
I know that the cost of the sculpture is $14,000. I believe that Greg Dombowski was gonna support the installation, the lighting, and that type of things. And I'm on the impression that there's
Yeah, if I
different
remember
funds that are
correctly, we've
involved.
already run PVC pipe to the center island
Yes.
for the electric, so that's a big expense.
Right, so it's just a question of wiring,
Yeah.
fixtures.
And who's gonna pay the electric bill?
Exactly.
Duncan.
Duncan, yeah, we can get Duncan to donate. Yeah.
Community service.
I personally, I think this is a really good idea.
Okay.
Really do.
So, can I just interject here that right now, when the budget was approved, that money was put aside as a reserve, and they were going to save up over a number of years. And so, one of the things that they'd be asking is, could they spend it now and not continue it as a reserve? I don't see a difference, just so everybody knows what they're trying to do.
Right.
Marcia, what is the amount in the reserve?
20,000.
So that, I was looking at your timeline, it said you would be installing the sculpture in April, so if we have a $13,000 ask, just build that in the next budget and maybe delay the installation till the budget's approved?
This was based that the sculpture would be available in approximately 5 to 6 months.
Right, we had a conversation with Greg, who was very informative. To be frank, speaking a little bit over our heads, and it was a little overwhelming, but he, obviously this is what he does every day, so he would be better equipped to answer these questions. Oh, hey, Greg.
Yeah, I think what Gary is saying is that, we're, as the Arts Commission, we're asked to find sculpture. But I think getting it actually off the ground, I mean, financially, I know how money works and,
So the issue would be, we have 20,000 now, we need another 13.
That's right.
We'd either have to find it in this year's budget or put it in the budget for next year, and you'd have a July 1st installation.
Exactly.
So July
Well,
time period, right?
It appears
have
that there,
I'm sorry.
does it still appear that way, that there may be money in Phase 3 streetscape?
Ah,
It was a $10,000, not,
Please,
should I come up with?
yeah,
that'd be great.
please.
I mean, so,
Sorry, don't do that.
do we wanna talk money tonight, or just approve the herons?
I think we,
why
yeah,
don't we
because
talk
we're
about
not
whether
gonna
we're
get
approving the herons
Let's
first, and
just
then we know if we
understand
have to talk
what
about
Greg
money.
wants to
Okay,
say.
I have a question. The fundraising total, 13,000, is that what you have raised?
No,
Okay.
and that would be something we would need to do. We probably have a couple $1,000.
Okay, so if we have 20,000 in the reserve, and if you could come up with the 13,000, that would be 33,000.
I don't like that idea, because in the last budget cycle, like Marcia said, we, and the Board of Finance was on board, we had agreed to committing 20,000 over, I think it was a 3-year period. So, right,
Each year, yeah,
so why would
Each
we
year.
ask them to fundraise if we already committed?
it was each year,
Um,
right?
It was a discussion for each year, but nobody can say that that's committed until it gets
actually
Till the next year.
actually approved. We do the same thing for fire trucks, and it gets changed year to year.
So the intent was to put 20,000 a year towards art for the town of Brookfield. This has come up now, the herons are there. So if we did what we intended to do last year, we would put $20,000 in next year's budget, and that would pay for this. And anything you can raise would be great. 'Cause then we-
Yeah, my only, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
If, it would just be nice if,
Well, there's a couple grants that we've been looking at that we were going to apply for, 5,000, little chunks of things.
Okay, so back to the phase 3 money?
Yeah,
Sorry.
let's talk about that.
if we want to approve the.
So,
Can
so
we know what Greg has to say?
honestly, I think the 33,000 number is low. I mean, we're gonna go out to bid, we're gonna follow our procurement procedures, but I talked to our engineering design company, and the number of $2,000 for installation, again, we've gotta meet DOT design standards, means and methods, is more like 7,500. So I think that 33,000 is really gonna be about 38,000. That includes, I put a 5% contingency in. I think the lighting's gonna come in a little less, but I honestly think we're gonna be closer to 38,000. Budget number, we have to go out to bid. Now, on Streetscape Phase 3, we had in our town contribution portion, $10,000 or $11,000 that's non-reimbursable because the state won't pay for an art sculpture. So beyond the 20,000 you've been talking about, I believe Streetscape Phase 3, the town contribution portion is under budget. And I believe, and I know there's, I think, 11,250 to be exact, set aside for an art sculpture out of that.
Okay.
So I think the gap is much less than what you were talking about.
I'm sorry, how much?
11,250, Marcia, if I'm not mistaken. I sent you that attachment, the commitment letter from the DOT, I think Friday or whatever.
And I'm sorry, I didn't read it.
Yeah, so it's 11,250. When we got the commitment letter from the DOT, they said what they're gonna pay for. They said we are not, and it's in writing, we are not gonna pay for your art sculpture.
So we would have 31,250.
Yes,
That's a long ways towards,
so, okay?
okay, well, we understand.
And
Thank you, Greg.
Greg, with those funds, are they available this year, or is that something that has to wait till next budget year?
They're available
They're
immediately.
available now.
This year's?
They're available now.
I thought there was some kind of conversation that we couldn't use the phase 3 money because this was a phase 2 project that was bonded.
It's more money, I think we can transfer.
That was a different conversation, that we have a shortage on phase 2 and we can't use phase 3 money for phase 2 because of the bonding situation, but that leaves more money for this project. And we wouldn't raid phase 3 for phase 2.
Okay. I'm pretty comfortable that we have a number of ways to raise this money, including the commitment by the Board of Selectmen to put $20,000 a year towards art and sculptures in town. I think that's a good idea. We have now, if Greg is correct, and I'm sure he is, he's never wrong, is $31,250. Even if you're using Greg's number of 38, you're talking $67.50 that we would have to find one way or the other to have this done in April. If we meet our commitment of putting $20,000 a year in art, then we're just talking a few months delay into next year's budget. Based on that, I personally, I think the herons are a fantastic idea. I think we should uplight them.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, I guess you're part of this.
And if anyone wants to donate to this, they can write a check to
Send
the
money to the
town of
Brookfield Craft
Brookfield,
Center.
and in the memo line, you say Arts Commission Sculpture. Thank you.
Get him, Catherine.
I would love to be able to see us try to solicit some residents to pitch in a little bit. I just think it shows good faith, and I just think it would be a nice thing, even if it's
Yeah.
a small amount.
Well, now, once we already have some donations, but now if we have say it's for the heron, then there's more of an excitement around it, and then people can gather around it and have an interest.
When you have an actual thing people can donate
When
to,
it's just
they're much more likely to do
some
it.
idea with no plan, it was difficult to do any fundraising.
All right, well,
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the herons as the sculptures as presented by the Arts Commission.
I'll second it.
I will triple that with the funding as we've discussed to be finalized in the future. Right? We still haven't, we have to decide where that
Well, do we want to make a
67.50
separate motion for the money?
We could.
Yeah,
Good.
let's do that.
Now, so what would be our next step? working
Well,
with
let us make
Marcia.
let us just,
Let's finish our.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you seconded?
Yeah, I second.
Any
Okay.
further discussion?
No.
All in favor on the herons?
Aye.
Aye.
Now,
Nicely done.
Thank you. So what would be our commission's next step with this, the company that's owns the sculpture? Getting a
So
PO for them?
We would come to my office, maybe Jules, and we'll get you a PO because we have to have the money first before we can do a PO, but it looks like the cost is 14,000 if my eyesight's that good. And we certainly have that ready to go. So that would be the first step, and then it doesn't look like anything else can be done separately until the rest of the money is there. Again, just looking quickly, maybe you could buy the lights without installing them if that's efficient and effective.
But it's a 5, 6, 7 month lead time
Yes.
for herons, so I would move forward with that, right? And then we will go through and adjust, go out to bid for the lighting, for the engineering, everything, and we'll be ready to do that when the herons are ready.
So question I have, which may be directed this way, but is how involved should we be in the next phase of that? I know you need to contact the state and all that, and all those variances and all those
I'll
things.
just manage it like another streetscape phase.
Yeah,
That'd be great, Greg.
yeah, I think Greg has the
That'd be
most.
wonderful.
So we
Greg
just
ha-
gotta check in and see how things are going, we don't physically get involved with anything like that?
I think we would want you to work with Greg to
Yes.
make sure it's placed where we want it, the heights are right, everything will work. You know more about artwork and how to put it up
But if
than Greg or any of us.
someone wanted
do.
us to find an installator,
I would suggest that they work closely with Greg.
I would agree, and I would also encourage any work that can be done in-house, like maybe
Yeah.
Public Works can take care of something, or our maintainers, so
Greg will know that.
we might have some cost savings there as well.
okay.
so do we need to make a motion for money or no?
So we would have to forward the approval, oh no, not until, well, if they're gonna be spending the 20,000,
You know what, I would wait to see what our actual bids come in, so I'd make a motion that we fund the purchase of the actual herons, and then fund, after we get the actual bids in, right,
Fund based
for
on what the,
engineering, for lighting, for electrical, we do that funding when we know what those numbers are. Right, when
Is
we
that
have a
your
good idea.
motion?
That's my motion.
did you get that?
20,000.
No,
One more time,
it's-
so that we could record it. Steve?
Well,
Yeah.
they're gonna be spending the entire 20.
At some point, yes. So I make a motion, we've already approved the cost of the 14,000 for the sculpture, right? We did,
Well, we only
No.
voted on the heron.
yeah,
One thing,
yeah, to purchase the herons.
it's 14,000 to purchase it, I think it's 2,000 to deliver it. And then we have to do the engineering design before we can go out to bid for the construction.
Right.
That's 4,800. See, she has 5,000 there, it's actually 4,800
Okay.
to do the engineering design so we can go out to bid for construction. So I think you'll need 14
And
plus,
5 for-
plus 5.
14 plus 2 plus 48.
Well, when we take delivery.
You're saying
14 plus 2 plus 5.
14 plus 16 plus 5, or just over $20,000.
But the extra 1,000 can come from streetscape.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So I would make a motion that we approve this expenditure of $14,000 for the structure, $2,000 for delivery, and $4,800 for the engineering, with 1,000, with the amount over 20,000, it's $750 over, I think? Whatever it is,
The remaining amount.
right? 48, 58, 68, and 13 is, no, we're still under 20. We're at 19.8.
14 and 2 and 48
Is 20,800.
800 over.
Way 800 over, okay. Okay. But we have the phase, we have the streetscape money, right? So we have the funding to come from both the $20,000 that we approved as a board, it's in the budget, plus the streetscape money for right now, $800. So $20,000 from the budget for art and $800 from streetscape.
If the $800 is a problem, we do have already some
some donation.
Fundraising.
Let's see what we can do with this first, and then if these numbers go all over, we may come back to you. Does that make sense to everybody? That's what I would do.
So we're approving the 20,000 that was approved in the budget
Plus 800.
to be
Yeah, we're
spent for
spending
this
the
project,
20,000, right.
with 800 over the 20,000 to come from Streetscape Phase 3.
Right.
And you should probably put at the end of the motion just to forward it to the Board of Finance, only
Right.
because they also approved it in the budget as a reserve and not a spending. Again, not a big deal, just so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, so I would amend my motion because we do need to go to the Board of Finance, for their review and possible approval.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Guys did a great job here.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your hard work.
Are we taking it?
I'm sorry.
No.
It's just a point of information that I think you would like to hear.
He has something to share regarding this project.
It's not this project, but it's something connected in the town, which would be very nice.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I don't.
He wants to add something that's related to something about the town.
Bob, do you want to come down to,
It'll take 20 seconds.
yeah. Just for everybody who's watching, if you can just take 20 seconds.
Yeah, I'm Bob Belden, Chairman of the Board of Education. We just opened the new school, and in the new school are some beautiful wireframe sculptures about animals. The one that hasn't been, and people love it, by the way, the one that hasn't been seen is the one that's outside the school that will be mounted when the new school parking lot is fully complete. And guess what it is? It's a heron. So I thought you would like to hear that. That's the nice. So we have a
Great
continuity
minds think
between the two projects. So
That's great.
I thought you'd like to hear that.
So when we build a new middle school, we can be the herons.
Yeah.
All right.
No more bobcats?
We got cubs now.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much for just.
Okay, so I just had are we, the commission, bringing it to the Board of Finance? Or is that something
Board
else
of
we get?
Selectmen brings it.
We'll bring that down.
Okay. And then I want to just, Marcia, I want to circle back. When I asked you what the next step was, you said I should come to your office, and then you said something else right after that. And
First has to be approved by the Board of Finance. If they approve it, then you can come to Marcia. She'll issue a purchase order,
Okay,
right, for the project. I would suggest that you attend the Board of Finance meeting in case they have any questions.
okay. Do we know when that meeting is? Is
Next
it-
Wednesday.
Usually next Wednesday.
A week from tomorrow.
A week from
Okay.
tomorrow, if you could.
Okay.
It's always helpful if people are there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we have an item further on the agenda. I didn't know if you had any questions about that was
We'll get
regarding
to that for
membership.
the- Right.
No, just say we have two openings in the Arts Commission if anyone would like to join us.
I'll be touching on that in my announcements.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Okay.
Fantastic. I like it when things get done. So, announcements. It's been said a couple of times this evening that we had our first day of school here in Brookfield today. I'm sure many parents were very happy to get the kids off and going, and sadly, summer is over. But we are excited about getting back to school, and as Mr. Belden mentioned, it was the first day at Candlewood Lake Elementary, which I'm certainly very proud of, and we all should be, in my humble opinion, as a community. We are blessed beyond measure, and it is something to behold. And I just wanted to sing my praise to the Board of Ed and the Municipal Building Committee, among many, many, many others that have played a hand in the vision and the creation and, of course, the launch over a number of years. So hats off to everybody. And all the best to teachers and faculty and students, and I'd ask the town to stand by for an official ribbon cutting of Candlewood Lake Elementary and an official walkthrough here shortly. What else? Coffee with the community in September will be on the 30th from 9 to 10 at the Highway Market at 616 Federal Road. Please stop by with any questions. All are welcome. And to our vacancies on boards and commissions, there are 2 on the Arts Commission. Maybe Jessely would like to volunteer.
You were gonna say
Energy Advisory Board, there are 2 vacancies. Our Inland Wetlands Board has 2 alternates and 1 regular member that they're in need of, and the Housing Authority has 1 vacancy. 5 Bravo, our correspondence for the month. You see the 3 items listed there, and I'd like to make a motion to add a correspondence that I missed, which was emailed to the Board of Selectmen on the 8th of August from Ray Vergotti of Homeland Towers regarding the communication license agreement for the tower at 60 Vale Road. Can I get a
I'll
second?
second that.
Thanks. Any discussion on adding that to correspondence?
No.
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Over to Marcia for our financial update.
All right, you have financial reports there, and I want to talk about the ones, the capital projects for June 30th of 2023. We're closing things out as we prepare for our audit. Our auditors are coming next week. So if you look at the one with the pink highlights at the top, that is the capital non-recurring. We call it cash capital. And we're looking to close out a number of small projects that are completed and have money remaining. That they total $55,364 of money remaining in small projects. There's 3 projects that need more money, totaling $13,909. One is the fire marshal vehicle replacement. These would be the costs to get it outfitted. One is Cadigan replacing the main staircase. We need another $1,010. That brings it to the low bid. And the library patio replacement needs $5,630 to bring it to the low bid. So between closing out $55,000 of projects and adding almost $14,000 of projects, we're still freeing up $41,455 for future that we could use for other projects. So that is the capital non-recurring. Also in capital non-recurring, I'd like to ask that we make a transfer that Streetscape Phase 2 is still not closed. When we talk to the Department of Transportation, they talk in terms of years. Give us half a year and we'll get back to you. Well, it's been 2.5 years, we finally have, they finally paid us on our biggest payment of almost $300,000 that we talked about in the prior administration. But we need more money for Phase 2, and our best estimate is $18,000. You also received a letter from the MBC, Paul Checo, and he's looking for more money for the boys' locker room. Some of that we can take from within the bonded money, but not all of it. So we need to transfer $33,230 for that project from the cash capital to the bonded capital. So those are the items that are on the page with the pink highlights. You've got the bonded.
Can I just ask you one question? Sure. Do you by any chance know the additional money we need for the boys' locker room? Is that additions or is that an increase in?
I believe the bulk of it was asbestos, that, if I remember that correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, where did this number come from? 33,230?
They've been keeping track, which?
The locker room.
The boys' locker room, they need $50,000. That was the NBC's last meeting. That was their guess. We can transfer from another project that's under $16,770 to cover part of the $50,000. But then we need to cover the balance of the 50, and we can't increase the budget without throwing some revenue into that account, and that revenue would come from this cash capital. We don't want to be underwater in our bonded capital. So some of it will come, and we'll talk about that, where that's coming from next. Some of it will be coming from other projects that were bonded the same year, and then that 16,770 will come from there, and 33,230 is coming from the cash capital.
So you're requesting transfer tonight of 18,000 out of phase two, for phase 2, and 33,230 for the locker room.
Yep, and they all have the same words, that transfer word. And so when I wrote up the motion, the top part of the motion is a budget transfer, that we're just moving budget monies around. And the second part of the motion, where we talk about the 18,000 and the 33,000, that's an actual transfer of cash from one fund to another fund.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that motion. Which motion are you talking
It is, she didn't attach it to the agenda, but it,
was it in your email?
It was in the email, and Part A says to approve the proposed transfers between projects as of June 30th, 2023, and shown on the attached report and forward to the Board of Finance. And then we list all the different transfers. And then the second half of that is to approve a transfer from the capital non-recurring fund to the bonded capital fund of $25,615 to fund the 18 and the 33,230. I can send you that email, the write-up that was in the email.
Was that your email from Thursday?
Yes. It was attachment 0.
So,
It said 0, I didn't think there was anything on it, that's my fault.
so for clarity's purposes, I make a motion that we include that email in the official record of this Board of Selectmen meeting, so we have it.
I'll second that. Is that a motion?
That's a motion, that's why I said it's a motion.
Any discussion on that?
Done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, I understand what you said. I agree with that. I think that's a reasonable way to go.
Do you want to make a motion on that now, or do you want me to move to the next one?
We can make a motion now. You want to make a motion?
For capital non-recurring fund, pink highlight? There's, I mean, is it labeled motion?
In the
It's an attachment, I think.
I'm in the
attachment 0,
I've got that.
it's the one with the
see it.
pink, because the pink motion goes with the pink paper.
Was there a motion on the pink? I thought we moved from that.
No, we're still there.
I'm saying there was no motion for this capital non-recurring fund one, right?
This is the one, it's the motion that's highlighted in pink.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, to approve the transfers. Ah. So where's the locker room in this one?
It is under the pink, and it is number B. There's A is the budget transfer, and B is the cash transfer. Would it be easier if she pulled it up on the screen?
I mean, I'm seeing it. Where is it on this document, Marcia? I'm sorry.
I'm gonna pull it up on the screen because we'll need it for the other two motions.
I mean, I got it on this one.
So this motion takes each of the numbers under proposed. The 17,000 here is the
Okay, yeah, I got
17,000
you.
there.
Uh-huh. But where is this?
That is, down here at the very end, because those projects are in a different fund. There's the 26,000.
Oh, that's right, because it doesn't say locker room.
Correct, because it's going to the other fund, and in the other fund is where the locker room project is.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you. I need that, though. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Are you tracking that, both of you?
Yes.
All right, there's the motion. Thank you.
Okay, so there are two motions regarding the capital non-recurring fund. The first motion would be to approve the proposed transfers between the projects as of June 30th as shown on the report from our controller on the 5th of September 2023 and forward to the Board of Finance. Totaling
I'm sorry.
$55,364.
I will second that.
Any discussion on those transfers?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the second motion would be to, from the capital non-recurring fund, to approve a transfer from the capital non-recurring fund to the bonded capital fund in the amount of $25,615 to fund those project numbers SC2 for Streetscape Phase 2 for $18,000 and HS 208 for the boys' locker room renovations for $33,230 and forward to the Board of Finance for their approval.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on those transfers?
No. Not for me.
No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So the next transfer has got a blue highlight, and it's relates to the page with the blue highlight on the top. And that is the bonded capital fund. And in the bonded fund, we can only transfer between the same bond year. So we're closing some of the small items that have money left, and that adds up to $27,827. We would be moving some of the money, $16,770, to the boys' locker room. That, together with the $33,000 that you just put in there, adds to the $50. And then at the bottom, we would we keep the fund balance separate, so we know what money we can move around. So we have fund balance for the 23 projects of we're adding to it of $20,822. We're using the 22 fund balance that had a balance in it of $10,807. And we're adding to the 2019 fund balance $1,042. So essentially, we're cleaning up 27,000 of projects, putting 16 into the locker room, and it leaves 11,000 back and forth.
That's where I was confused, because I didn't see the locker room on the
Yeah.
other one, but here it's listed as the 33,230, so, okay.
Yep. So that's the first motion on this page. The second motion on this page is that money that you just transferred. You transferred the cash, and now we're trying to increase the budget to allow us to spend that cash. So it seems duplicative, but one is transferring the cash and one is increasing the budget.
Want to make those motions, Harry?
Yes, I'll make that motion. I can't read that. I'm gonna make my monthly request that we have larger print so that I can read this stuff.
I agree with Howard.
I can't
Okay,
read that.
I'll read it.
Page.
You're
The
better than
first
me.
motion is to approve the proposed transfers between projects in the bonded capital fund as of the 30th of June 2023 as shown on the attached report and forward to the Board of Finance. for the amount of $38,634.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that motion?
None.
Everyone tracking what we're doing
Yep.
here, right?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the second motion is to approve additional appropriations to these projects budgets funded by a transfer from the capital non-recurring fund, referencing 1 Bravo above.
16.
1B above. And forward to the Board of Finance. For projects STS C2, Streetscape Phase 2 for $18,000, and HS208, the boys locker room renovations for $33,230.
I'll second that.
What is 1B above?
That was the motion that you just made under the pink page,
Yeah,
that,
that's what I thought. Okay.
where we were moving the money.
Right.
We're second.
Which is why that one seems redundant. I got
do
you.
that.
Okay. Any discussion on that?
None.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the third one is just closing out some of the ARPA projects that, that are done, or there's been a change of circumstances, that the top 3 were done with a little bit of money left over. The Still River Greenway design is now being paid through Westcog, and so we do not need to save that money any longer. And the building's condition study came in a great deal under bid, so that was wonderful, because they thought it was coming in over bid. So we're asking to close $73,873 of the projects and move it to fund balance.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No.
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the final report from me is, doesn't require any motions. It's just the revenue report from July. We were waiting to balance that before we gave it to you. And we did, and tax collections have been the best we've had in the last 7 years. And part of that is due to, for the month of July, and part of that is due to just the timing of the tax sale in August.
That's good.
Other than that, the auditors come next week, and we're working on completing the financial statements before they get here.
Yeah, so you're saying we're $92,000 over budget on revenue?
Looks that way.
Projected a year?
Right now we are, and that has to do with the state of Connecticut grants that they have come in. They finish their budget, they finish their allocations after we pass our budget, and we have some higher allocations than we had expected. The biggest being LoSiP, that they told us when they passed their budget that, or when we checked with them, that it looks like it'll be more, but they hadn't finished hashing that out, and it did turn out to be more.
That's a miracle.
We don't have it yet.
State. Okay.
Good news story. Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6A, our very patient, is Erin here? Okay, well, I'd move to, let me look at the date. Okay, actually, this one expired, and they did give us an extension to this meeting for the,
Okay.
so, this one would be to accept ARPA funding of $11,440 for this investigation.
This epidemiological investigation?
Nicely said. Say it 10
It's
times
got like
fast.
12 syllables.
And 12 vowels.
Yeah. Too bad it's not Fitzwordle.
Lead prevention.
Yeah,
So, are we, can we just accept this funding?
We have to approve that they accept it. Any grant, we have to approve.
So they've already gotten the grant. We're saying that we are allowing
we
them
should have
to ta-
approved it
Actually, wait, this is
before
an
they got it.
application. It says complete the application, so we haven't accepted it. This would be what we're eligible for if we fill out the second page here,
Right.
ARPA funding application. So I think he's asking for us to just apply for it.
That's not what the recommended motion
It-
says.
It says approve the Brookfield Health Department to accept the ARPA funding.
Okay, well, we don't have to go with the recommended motion because this is an application.
Yeah, but what you can do is that you can approve the application and also approve the acceptance of the money if and when the application is successful.
There we go.
It's just the process you go through. So I would,
So do you want to make that, Steve? or-
yeah, so the motion is that the selectmen agree to allow the health department to make an application for ARPA funding for the lead prevention grant, and that if awarded, we accept it.
Not the ledge prevention grant. This is different.
Yeah, Number one, lead prevention grant, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Number,
Item number 1, 6A1? That's what it says here.
The
epidemiological.
11,000 is B.
Yeah.
So that one's 40,000? Wait a second. 6A is
Yeah, here we go.
the application for this drinking water and environmental health. 11,440 epidemiological investigation.
So we are,
Yeah.
we are approving for them to go ahead and apply and also to use the money if it's,
Right.
if we get.
I don't see anything in here about lead paint.
They,
It's not lead,
various blood lead levels. That's what it says.
A blood lead level.
Number 1 of their letter from the state of Connecticut, 5 micrograms per deciliter or greater. So we have to agree that the Brookfield Health Department will accept the ARPA funding. The issue becoming, we've had this problem before where they've given ARPA funding and then the town doesn't agree. They give the money back and the state goes, we already gave it to you, it causes them a problem. So we have to just agree that we will accept the ARPA funding for this study. And
Well,
to-
that's where I wish he was here because I did have some questions as far as what is our local health department then required to do? Surveillance system, blah, 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 I mean,
we should know that by now. But this has, you said this has a,
he wouldn't be putting it before us if he didn't
is that, yeah,
want to go after it.
he's a pretty smart guy, right?
So, okay.
I mean, are we under a time restraint? If you have questions, sir, we
They,
can,
again,
we
it
can
it was
table it.
due on the 30th, but they gave us he did tell me they gave us an extension to this
So-
meeting because I wanted to bring it before.
I
the
don't
vote.
think Aaron would apply for it and ask us to apply for it if he couldn't follow the procedures
Right.
and
He
policies.
does have a plan for using.
Yeah,
Okay,
so again, my motion stands to approve the application and acceptance.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, this next one's a little bit of a different story. Well, I guess it's not, because he's asking our permission to apply for the grant.
Right. I think we've done this before, too.
$40,462.47. So I'll make the motion that the selectmen approve the Brookfield Health Department application for the workforce development grant.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and there we are with our Human Services Department. Thank you for being so patient.
Not a problem. Do you guys have the sheet that says other services line item?
Yes.
Okay.
Age document.
You don't have to read the long document. I summarized it for you. Okay, so I'm here tonight. Every year I've gone through the budget process. We've approved a sum of money to be allocated to various social services agencies. A few years ago, I was tasked with doing grant proposals from them and summarizing the information and kind of based on who we use and what our views are, and the agencies we work at and the ones that impact Brookfield residents, to come up with a draft of how that money's allocated. So that's what I'm here presenting tonight. The total is $10,600, and the graph shows our recommendations on presenting the money.
So these 10 agencies.
Right. 4,
2, 3,
5.
5, 6.
So you're recommending that we spend 2,000 to regional hospice, 500 to renewal house, the Center for Empowerment and Education, 500. Is that right?
Yep.
And We Care for, I'm sorry, I don't see
We
it.
Care no longer is in business.
Oh, okay.
You have the first page. There's
okay,
Ability
so
Beyond.
Ability Beyond, ARC, Dream Home,
Right.
Amos House, Ann's Place.
Oh, wait a minute.
Brookfield Cares, Housatonic Valley Association,
Yep,
Regional Hospice, Renewal House, Tibico, the Center for Empowerment, and We Care.
That's good choices.
So for these two that have notes,
Okay.
Brookfield Cares and the
No.
center, or?
No, the notes are Housatonic Valley Association, which is not a social services agency. They're dedicated to protecting rivers and streams. So it seems to me that that funding would come from elsewhere rather than from social services grant funding.
Yeah.
And that's what that note is saying. And then the second note is We Care, which we have allocated in the past. Oh, thank you. And after they had applied for it and we've worked with them, we got a notification from them letting us know that as of, I think it was July 1st, they're no longer in business.
I mean, we literally get dozens of requests.
We get a lot of requests,
hard.
and so that's why we've gone through the grant process. We get their 990s, we get their nonprofit status, we look at their budgets, we ask how many Brookfield residents that we serve, and then we've worked with our team, which agencies do we know actually directly impact residents of Brookfield.
So how many are there that will be grant recipients? Sorry.
1,
I
2,
counted
3,
10,
4,
but-
5, 9. 9.
Okay, so everybody except for We Care.
And Housatonic Valley Association, which,
See, 8.
Oh,
I
the
see.
notes isn't lined up. I'm sorry, that's where the.
the no,
I got
yeah,
you.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
yeah,
There's 9, right?
it's 9. So there are a few new ones that we've added this year. Basically, you're going to hear from Ben in a few minutes, but with behavioral health and outreach, we've worked with some new agencies, so we're kind of excited to support those agencies that are supporting residents and housing Brookfield residents in need.
Super.
Good.
All right. Appreciate all your hard work on getting this together,
Sure.
Ellen. You know, this is the second year now.
Yep.
Gone over it with you. Appreciate it. So, where'd I put my agenda?
I'll make a recommended motion that the selectmen approve the social services, other services line item in the amount of $10,600 for the fiscal year 2023-24. Grants requested for local and regional social service not-for-profit organizations as noted on the list submitted on 8/24/23.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
None from me.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ellen, great job.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to add an item to our new items, which is the additional correspondence that I added earlier for the Homeland Towers email with the licensing agreement that you both received on the 8th of August. I just want to make sure that you both are in receipt of that agreement. I spoke with Homeland Towers today. They are going to erect the tower this week. And as soon as our equipment that we are procuring through the radio upgrade project comes in, our equipment will be affixed to that site. some of which includes, I wrote it down, a 10-foot by 16-foot concrete pad, 2 antenna whips at different heights on the tower, and some mounts, among other miscellaneous items. So there's no urgency to get to this agreement, but I do want to spend a little bit more time trying to determine if this fee for rent to put our equipment on the tower is reasonable compared to what other towns are being charged for similar services. So does anybody have any?
So this is saying they want to charge us $3,000 per month?
Yes. Where is it? Number 3.
Yeah, I read it, I just read it. And our current tower that sits on town hall property, we have for free. Right, we
We're
don't-
charging them rent.
Yeah, we charge them rent for the bottom, but they're not charging us anything for the use of the tower.
Yes, and I was also informed today that Homeland Towers will be sending the town of Brookfield another written proposal to erect another tower in the vicinity of Brookfield High School.
So how long is this for? How long is this agreement
And
for?
I'm also trying to determine if it's from the time that our equipment's actually placed on the tower, or if they start charging us rent when it's up and running, when the whole system is functional. So there's questions to be answered, and if I wanted to give you guys time to really review this, and I'd like to make the motion that we table this to our next meeting.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I don't see a term in this. I would agree with tabling it. while
It's
we
supposed to
discuss
be
it.
indicated here on this top line.
Yeah, but I don't.
It's probably a good idea
No,
also to gather
that's just
any
the date of
questions
entry.
that the board has at this moment, that way we can research those questions by the next meeting.
Yeah.
So if there's anything beyond what the selectwoman had outlined, we can add that to the list tonight, so to speak. We definitely want to look into what the market rate is. We could use, say, an organization like CCM Research, so we understand what the market rate is for this, but I think there's questions above and beyond what that fair lease price would be.
We had done an analysis of this. You might have it in the files, where we went to other towns and asked them what their fees were. It might, yeah. That was a few years ago. So.
Okay, so the motion is to table with the understanding that any additional questions will come
Yeah, we have a little bit of time.
before we commit to this agreement.
Right.
Did I
I'll
just
second it. I'll
All
second
right.
it.
Any further discussion on that licensing agreement?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, there is another item I'd like to make a motion to add. And this one's on me. The PD had asked, after the Board of Ed had approved at their meeting in August, a memorandum of agreement between the town, the Board of Ed, and the Brookfield Police Department. So my motion is to add that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on adding it? All in favor?
Aye.
Of
Aye.
adding it. Yes.
So you should have a copy of
Yes.
it. Have you looked at it?
Yes, I have a question.
Mhm.
Can I ask Bob?
Yeah, the chair of the
Bob, I
Board
just
of
have
Ed
one
is
quick
here.
question. Was there any discussion about if a officer from another town is coming on site to a school, whether it be for a game or to pick up a child who is coming from work and is armed, for them to be able to not have to take it off? Or I just was wondering if that was discussed, or do they have to come unarmed when they get to the facility?
So to answer the question, there's a state law that the police have to abide by, which is you cannot carry an arm onto school grounds unless you have an MOU with the school board. our police department has approached the Brookfield schools and said, we'd like to have that MOU to protect our officers because they are very actively involved in the schools.
Just for the people,
Yep.
what an MOU.
Oh, a memorandum of understanding, which is what you're looking at here. So our board has said if another district or the state police would like to have that same sort of memorandum of understanding, and we have a police officer who is actively coaching or whatever they're doing, of course we would entertain that. But we have not been approached by anybody else at this point. So it's not that we're pushing it away. We're, you know, it was a request from our police department. We think it's a good thing. It protects our officers, you know, who are on our property. And we're not inviting lots more people with armed onto our campus, but we have to protect our officers who are there. And it's a good safety measure, and we're fine with it. So we were unanimous in adopting it.
Thank you.
It makes a lot of sense.
And this was also voted on and approved by the police commission, and
Yes.
there's a statute that guides it, which is, for the record, 53 Alpha 217 Bravo of the
That's right.
state
That's what I remember that.
police
number.
statute.
So it's Harry, it is, nobody's saying no, but nobody's saying yes because it hasn't been a point of conversation. So.
Thank you. No, it's,
And this was drafted by the Board of Ed attorney, right, Bob?
In conjunction with the town attorney, they worked together.
Our town council did review.
Yeah, absolutely. Both parties worked collaboratively. There was a lot of back and forth, and also between Dr. Burrell and the chief. So there was a lot of give and take. It took months.
very good,
So
thank
the
you.
Board of Ed is comfortable with this, the superintendent?
We've adopted it unanimously.
Okay, and this goes in place and stays in place until rescinded?
Correct.
Thank you, Bob. That's all, those are my only questions.
Should I make the motion that we approve the memorandum of understanding?
Yes.
I'm sorry, memorandum of agreement. I did?
I
If
second
not,
it.
that's the motion. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ben, Barry. We're moving along to item 7, Charlie. And I thank you for your patience in advance.
Oh, no worries. Hello, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Ben Ferry. I'm the Behavioral Health Liaison here for the town of Brookfield. I'm here tonight to provide an update for this ARPA grant-funded position that I took back in January of 2023 following Ryan Soto, who is now the Social Services Coordinator who initiated the role back in July of 2022. I was very eager and excited to take on this role because I saw it as an amazing opportunity to give back to the community addressing mental health as well as other challenges that members of the community have been facing. If we could take a look at slide 2. I just want to start by discussing the role that I serve here as the Behavioral Health Liaison. The primary role of this position is to provide direct services to members of the community through collaboration with our first responders, local town agencies, and community organizations. It's about promoting access to resources, serving as the bridge to those supports, and reducing the amount of resources that the town and our first responders are expending. I conduct continuous outreach to build strong relationships that further the efficiency of our services. But most importantly, the role of this position is to ensure the residents of Brookfield that help is available to them in a town that has been putting their needs first and continues to put their needs first. If we could take a look at slide 3. Much of the success of this position involves outreach and building strong community relationships. Since taking this position, I've documented meetings with over 250 helping professionals and organizations throughout the community. I meet monthly with several groups to continue furthering our reach within the community, including the Commission on Aging, the Housing Collective, Danbury Food Collaborative, Newvance Community Cares Team, the Blight Panel, and Brookfield Cares. I've utilized these and many other resources to provide individuals and families with financial assistance, housing support, food and clothing, mental health services, as well as access to social connection and enrichment programs. If we can move on to slide 4, I just want to touch on the referral process, which plays a significant role in the success of this position so far. Collaborative relationships with our first responders have been critical to helping residents find long-term, sustainable solutions. My involvement provides additional resources that connect individuals to supports that alleviate some of the burden on our first responders and our town agencies. I immediately met with officers and EMS when I started in this role to offer them my support and my assistance. I meet with the Chief of Police on a monthly basis, and I communicate regularly with our first responders regarding the needs of our residents. I work closely with the Brookfield Health Department, and they provide referrals wherever they feel an individual or a family may benefit from our services. I work very closely with the members of the Senior Center, providing support and referrals. I also conduct a grief support group at the Senior Center on a monthly basis as well, which has been an excellent resource for those that are experiencing loss. I collaborate with helping organizations such as Catholic Charities, the Center for Empowerment and Education, TBICO, ARC, APEX, the Community Action Agency for Western Connecticut, and like Alan was just mentioning, Renewal House as well, which houses individuals. It's a transitional living house. Having connections at these community organizations has been imperative to ensuring the most efficient referrals and transitions to further services. We also receive referrals from Public Works Department, local housing complexes, Brookfield schools, churches, businesses, the VFW, mental health providers, the tax collector's office, and even animal control. I'm always willing to meet with any organization that might serve as an opportunity for community support. Now looking at slide 5, I'd like to provide some case examples to show how this position has been working in the community. This first case in this presentation was referred to me by the Brookfield Police Department, EMS, and the local housing complex that the individual was living in. This individual was struggling with severe mental health challenges, was unable to manage his medication, which was making his behavior very unpredictable at times. The individual was living in an unsafe environment due to his lack of ability to conduct daily tasks required for independent living. He had frequent encounters with law enforcement and EMS during his nearly 3 years of living in Brookfield. He was transported to the hospital by EMS more than 10 times within 1 month, was arrested several times, banned from several local establishments in the community, and fire rescue was often dispatched to his home. That picture is not an exact picture of his apartment, but it looked very similar to that. I advocated for this individual involving the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, as well as protective services. I initially assisted him with his home cleanup, transportation services, and food from our local pantry. But this individual was in need of a higher level of care to live a dignified life, and I was able to find him long-term housing in a residential facility that provides him medication management, housekeeping, and food services. This individual expressed a great deal of gratitude for the support that he received through EMS and all the first responders and everybody in the town that helped him over the past 3 years, and he's now doing much better. The next case example on slide 6 involves a referral from the Brookfield Police Department and the Department of Public Works. This individual was facing an eviction in one of the local housing complexes. I conducted a home visit with the property manager to offer some support and see what they might need. It quickly became apparent to us that the individual was struggling with substance use. After speaking to this individual, they explained that they were struggling with opioid and stimulant use, and they were willing to work with me and get some services. They just didn't know where to begin. I was able to set up door-to-door transportation for this individual to receive necessary substance abuse treatment services for the same day as the eviction, preventing the individual from becoming homeless and providing her with a plan of action. I'd also like to mention that to promote access to services, I've added quick links on our website with mental health and substance abuse treatment services and bed availability, as well as affordable and senior housing applications for easy access to supports that are most commonly requested. The third case example on slide 7 was a result of attending the Blight panel. I sit in on these meetings monthly to offer support to people if needed. I encountered an individual whose home was being neglected and was on the verge of being blighted. This individual explained that she was struggling to maintain her property due to mental health struggles following the passing of her husband 2 years prior. I offered her my support at this meeting and agreed to assist with finding her resources and resolving her blight concerns. Through emergency funding, we were able to bring in a junk removal company to assist with the cleanup of her property and resolve the blight issue. I provided referrals for CT paid leave while she was out of work managing her mental health, as well as counseling services and support groups, which she began to utilize and continues to do so as of our last contact. This individual also recently started working a new job, which she explains is going very well. Lastly, on slide 8, I would like to quickly address some goals that we have for this position going forward, which are to continue advocating and empowering those in need, advocating for and empowering those in need of services, to continue furthering the relationships that have been built throughout the community with our first responders, town agencies, helping organizations, and individuals. And also to continue furthering access to support and improving the efficiency of our services while putting the needs of Brookfield residents first as we have been. And in closing, I want to thank all the first responders for their amazing work and compassion for the well-being of the community, as well as all the town officials who work to keep Brookfield great, and the Director of Social Services, Ellen Melville, for her continued support and dedication to these efforts. And thank you all for helping make this position a reality for those in need. I look forward to answering any questions you may have now or in the future. My office is located over in the Senior Center, and I'm always willing to talk about the work that we're doing. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
I want to find a way to clone you because I know that the whole world could use more of you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I sincerely appreciate all you do to help the residents of our town. And I know it's not an easy job. So thank you. This was a great update. I thought it was timely because you've been on board about
Since January, so it's, 9 months. 9 months, yeah.
And Ryan was fulfilling your role before, so we're coming up on
It's just over a year now.
a year
right?
of
over
this
a year.
position. So
Yeah.
great update,
Thought it was
great
great.
work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was waiting till you finished because I was going to try to figure out under your referrals how you would tie into blight, but then you explained it very well. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you. Yeah, I decided to sit in on the blight panel meetings, because I said, some of these people that may potentially become blighted may need additional assistance, whether it's mental health support or financial assistance or something like that. So I figured, let me sit in on these, and I've had several different people that have actually accepted our assistance. So it's been great.
It's a large portion
Yeah.
of the blight problems.
Yeah.
Are not financial in nature.
Yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah, there's more to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all. If you ever have any questions, feel free to come and see me in the Senior Center. I'm always happy to talk. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Okay. Item D, I'd like to make the motion that we reconstitute the Still River Greenway Ad Hoc Committee for a period of 2 years and to eliminate the alternate member positions. This came about because last month the terms of all the members expired, so I spoke to the chair, Jay Annis, and he also requested that they don't have a need for these alternate positions. They're very comfortable with a 5-member board. So that's where I'm coming from
I'll
with
second
this
that.
motion. Any discussion?
No, I'm fine with
All in favor?
it. Aye.
Aye. We'll talk a little bit further along about the reappointment of those members. Moving on to the consent agenda, I'd like to make the motion that the selectmen approve items A through E.
I will second that.
Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Yeah, on the 8A, the Signal Rock Consulting, how will they be paid? From the Community Block Development Grant? Where will the money come from?
Yes, I asked him that, if it would be eligible to be paid from the grant, and yes, it will. And essentially, he's replacing Lisa Lowe, who had
Yep.
retired.
Yep.
And we're trying to get that money moved to the
New.
Brookfield Housing Authority, the balance of the cash, and they think they can do it.
Really? That's interesting. Okay, that's the only question I had.
Any further discussion on the consent agenda?
No, none.
And on the, I'm sorry,
Cowbell?
8A, the cowbell cyber risk?
Yeah, we didn't attach that to the agenda because
Yeah.
of the cyber insurance
We're
concerns. but
approving what? You signing
the
this?
application, yes.
Okay, all right, just want to
And
make sure.
it will become part of the policy.
Right.
So I
Right.
talked to Dan about that
Yeah,
today.
because it's a separate firm outside of Kerma, right,
Right.
that they go to. Okay.
And Kerma was instrumental in getting the bids.
Right, yeah, they're really good. Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with all of
I
this.
do want to touch on the employee changes. I always like to mention our new hires, of course. We have Terry Allen, who's our part-time human service administrator at the senior center, who replaced Kathy. Ben Ford, our new part-time custodian at the library. Deborah Holland, who is our full-time head of library services. Chris Marquis, who is replacing Bill as Demi retired, and Bill moved up as our full-time assistant building official. And of course, Sarah Palmer, who we appointed last month
Right.
as our emergency management director. So you seconded, we discussed. Any further discussion?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then item 9 for our appointments. For the Energy Advisory Board, I'd like to make the motion that the Selectmen appoint John Mitchell, a Democrat, as a member of the Energy Advisory Board for a term beginning today, the 5th of September 2023 through the 1st of February 2027, as recommended by the Energy Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on appointing Mr. Mitchell?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the Still River Greenway Ad Hoc Committee, I'd like to make the motion that the Selectmen appoint Jay Annis, unaffiliated, Bohan Dacau, a Republican, James Deesman, a Republican, Maureen Farrell, a Democrat, and Jean Hartnett, unaffiliated, as members of the Still River Greenway Ad Hoc Committee Board for a term beginning tonight, the 5th of September 2023 through the 4th of September 2025.
Some of those people's names aren't listed here. Is that just an oversight?
Yes, I kind of consolidated after I reconfirmed with Jay because he was giving me like, oh, James said yes, he'll stay on. Then
Okay.
he came back a few days later and said,
Yep,
so I
yep.
just lumped them all
Okay,
together
just wanna make
instead
sure.
of doing it this way.
I'll second this.
Any further discussion?
No.
None.
They do a great job.
Yes, they do. And if the stars align, we'll be able to get further
Oh.
along with the Still River Greenway.
You said 2 or 3 years. How long do you want to do it for?
I said
Uh,
2
he-
in the previous motion,
You said
so.
2 in the previous motion?
And I just put this through the
Yeah,
4th of
that's fine.
September
That's fine.
2025.
2025. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
No problem.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to our municipal historian, I'd like to make the motion that we appoint Louis Quinn, a Republican, as the municipal historian for a term beginning tonight, the 5th of September 2023 through the 2nd of February 2026, as recommended by the Brookfield Museum and Historical Society.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on appointing Mr. Quinn?
None.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving to the Youth Commission, I'd like to make a first motion. Can I lump these two together? No. That the Selectmen appoint Kayla Zimmerman as a non-voting student member of the Youth Commission for a term beginning tonight, the 5th of September 2023 through the 5th of February 2024, as recommended by the Youth Commission.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on Ms. Zimmerman?
None.
Hearing none? All in,
I have one question. Weren't we going to move the students' appointments to match the school year? So
if it's approved in the charter revision, I thought. Or do
I'm
we have a
sorry?
separate
I think that's gotta
ordinance on
be
that?
approved in the
It's part of charter revision.
charter revision.
Yeah,
Okay.
silly. But did we
Alright.
do an ordinance on it? Separate?
I don't know if we did an ordinance.
Okay.
I feel like we had an ordinance going. But then it went over to the charter, cause
Yeah,
they're
and
appointed
it
by
gets-
charter.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, that's silly.
That's another issue we can address at a later time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to make the next motion that we appoint Ben, thank you, as an alternate member of the Youth Commission for a term beginning the 5th of September tonight through the 1st of February 2027, as recommended by the Youth Commission.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on appointing Mr. Bogues?
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, with the Arts Commission, I'd like to make the motion that we remove Ms. O'Hara as a member of the Arts Commission pursuant to section C4-11B1 of our town charter.
What is that? Can you describe that?
It's right here. So it's, the power of removal lies within the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I know that.
C4-1, Bravo 1. C4-11B1. We have the power to suspend by affirmative vote of 2 members, to remove for good cause by affirmative vote of all members any person appointed to an office or position by the board. and we appointed the members of the Arts Commission, so now we have to, so this is for not participating and not attending meetings. And the Arts
So the-
Commission already voted to remove this individual.
Okay, but I think the cause should be listed, you know, you just removing somebody for future reference. You just stated what the reason was, non-attendance?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll second it.
So, you got that, Cynthia? Amend the motion to include for non-attendance, please, thanks. Any further discussion on this removal?
No.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that goes back to the, vacancy announcements where they now
Right,
have
right.
2 vacancies. Okay. Anyone wanna hang out a little bit longer?
I just want, if I make one comment, real quick. We had someone speak earlier about an incident that happened the day after the Republican caucus in this room.
Harry, I think this is inappropriate and not, you should recuse yourself, you were part of that event. I don't think that's relevant for our agenda at hand.
Well,
Well, I just wanted to simply, what,
you really need to make those comments. You're speaking as an individual,
yes,
not as a member of this board.
yes,
So that should have been done during public comment.
okay.
That has happened before in this board where people have spoken their personal views sitting at this table, and we shouldn't do that. It's happened before and it shouldn't happen. If you want to get up, make public comment, I think that's fine, but I agree with Tara in this case that we should keep any comments, any issues to public comment when you're speaking as an individual.
Okay.
You're
I-
not speaking for the board.
I respect that. It was not a comment about what he said.
Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
so I wasn't refuting anything.
No, no.
Observation under legal in this situation, and this is the kind of situation that comes up in a lot of different towns, but, a lot of towns in compliance with Robert's Rules of Order are very specific that public comment is for items that are germane to the agenda, either new business or existing business
Yeah.
on the agenda, not to go into the weeds on matters that simply don't concern town business
Or-
what this board is meeting on that particular
Yeah,
night.
well, I think a lot of boards, what they do is public comment at the beginning of the meeting must address anything that's on the agenda, and at the end of the meeting, public comment can be for anything you want to discuss.
Right.
I
We
think
do have
that's
the
a
right
good
to
compromise.
respond, I believe,
Yeah.
to that.
Well-
And again, I wasn't going to refute anything.
If you wanted to add a public comment, you would
Yeah.
have to make it.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
No, I'm fine. It wasn't anything really.
I mean, we could, if you wanted to make a motion to add public comment.
No,
Okay,
that's fine.
all right, well, then I make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Oh, there you go.
Everybody's very overzealous. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a great night.